I'm Farzana Nasser. I'm a partner at Chameleon Collective. We're a group of marketing and e-commerce experts, and it's my pleasure to introduce this next session. It will surely be a very interesting one. AI and personalization are the buzziest of buzzwords. And in this session, we'll have leaders from BevMo, Sally Beauty, and Big 5 Sporting Goods discuss tips and tricks that include elevating personalization from buzz to a successful strategic initiative, including coordinating across teams and the C-suite, breaking out of analysis paralysis. Raise your hand if you've been in that situation before. I think we can all identify with analysis paralysis once in a while. And using new technologies to launch and learn fast while consolidating tech stacks. So be prepared to hear about real-world examples and some great case studies from the group here. I'd like to welcome, and please join me in welcoming Matt Champion, the former CMO of BevMo, to the stage, Chris Hansen, the VP of Digital Product at Sally Beauty, and Chris Smith, the Director of Ecommerce at Big 5.
Well, thank you for joining us today. My name is Matt Champion. I was the prior CMO of BevMo, which is an alcohol retailer in the West Coast, about 161 stores, $1 billion worth of sales, and about 15,000 SKUs. I'm joined here today by marketing leaders from Big 5, as well as Sally Beauty. You ask, why would we have alcohol, sporting goods, and beauty together? Well, because there's thousands of SKUs of each of these businesses. This is all about how do we make the biggest impact to those consumers when you have thousands of items that they could possibly have. So with that, I'd like to introduce Chris first to introduce himself. And then once again, I'm blessed by having two Chris's, which makes it easy for me. I can't screw up the names, but we'll go with Chris and then Hansen, of course. Chris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Smith, Director of Ecommerce at Big 5 Sporting Goods. I started in dot-coms and startups in the 90s doing web and then moving to a 65-year-old retailer to bring e-commerce to them.
Hi everyone, Chris Hansen, I'm VP of Digital Product at Sally Beauty. I've got a background of about 20 years of telecommunications, retail, and food and hospitality, all in e-commerce. I'm really excited to speak with everyone today.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about AI. It's the buzzword of the day, and it should be. This is one of the major technological innovations that's happened in our lifetimes. You know, first we had the web, then we had mobile, now we have AI. The discussion today is going to be about how AI can impact your organization, how you can use it in order to personalize what your consumers have. This is a discussion about the predictive elements of AI. All AI is predictive. This is really important. Generative AI uses prediction in order to pick the words that it's going to use. The AI we talk about today is tailored to pick the SKUs that your organization has that are most likely to meet the consumer's needs that your consumers have, whether they know it or not. Sometimes they don't. They may like Chardonnay when they thought that they only like Sauvignon Blanc, and this helps with that based on that predictive nature. We're gonna have a conversation about that. We're gonna have a conversation about how to get this into your organization when it's not used to making 20-meter jumps. They're used to making 10-meter jumps to jump a 20-meter chasm. And we're gonna talk about the impact of the business with two business leaders who have seen this firsthand. Now, this is all brought to you by Brainify, which is one unique partner that all three of us had. And we talked about this before briefly. Each of us had 20, 30 different agency partners, and it's rare to have a partner that you can call on the phone and they can make a difference right away. This is something that does that kind of difference and impact, and that's why we're here today. So, I'd first like to talk about Big 5. So Big 5, national sporting goods chain. What you see here is what every business group wants. We've got a chart that goes up and to the right. Chris, why don't you tell me a little bit about this and a little bit about how AI and how you came in and some of the differences that it's made and how this chart and why this chart keeps going up and to the right.
I think one of the power of AI and Brainify is that, you know, intuitively in our journey with DTC, we saw that as you move from a one-size-fits-all to segmenting, you could see a dramatic increase in your results. This lets you segment to a segment of one. And if you think about it, your merchandiser might be able to represent how a handful of people shop, but the AI can represent all the people that shop your site and the style of shopping that they bring. They may purchase a mix of products that your merchandiser wouldn't typically predict.
Talk to me a little bit about that, because I think this is really insightful. We've got a merchandiser, we've got probably 10 or 12 of those throughout the entire organization that's doing the broad gambit of all your products. How is AI changing how they're thinking about it and how they're implementing? How's it changing the decision cycle, or is it?
It does to a degree. AI can surface some pairings that I don't think the human merchandiser would intuitively start with, since their bias is towards how they shop.
Tell me a little bit about that. Give me an example of something that was discovered or that you were able to use that provided an adjacency or something nuanced that you wouldn't get when a buyer's just looking at the standard, data set that you're getting from a dashboard.
Yeah, I think one of the ones that surprised us was the degree to which we would see a person who purchases tents also purchase a soccer ball. We wouldn't expect that, and the way our org is set up, those are different merchant teams usually. So being able to have that crossover would probably be stuck in a silo without AI breaking it.
On the slide here, we've got a set of all your SKUs that you've kind of got up. Like we've got shoes here, we've got different, I came from Amazon, we call it shovelers. So it's, you put it out there for the consumer to look at, the first set of products they see. Talk to me about how that used to be done and now how is it done?
Yeah, it used to be very manual for the merchandise team, building recommendations and then trying to keep up with it as the inventory changed and as promotional events changed. Whereas the AI can do that in real time, picking up customer signals as they shop to continue to refine and optimize what it's surfacing. One of the challenges that we have is not only a breadth of SKUs, but a breadth of categories. So we might have everything from yoga mats to soccer balls to hunting and hiking. And these are all very different audiences and very different customers who shop differently.
Hansen, you've probably seen this as well. You have everything from hair color to nail polish to all things in between. How do you manage through those SKUs, having the unique customer coming and looking at that? You've got nuances by region, by time, by color preference, by treatment preference. Talk to me a little bit about that and how you manage it as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that we all have is, especially with us and probably many of you out in the audience today, is the amount of SKUs that we do have, right? How do we selectively pick those to meet the customer's needs? And Brainify has really helped us with a number of ways of doing this. And I think one of the things that I would stress the most is that you have to have speed, right? Speed is something that, if you don't use the speed as an advantage, then you're losing money. And so, I see, my slide up there now, and again, this is, like you said, this is a promotion slide. Like this is like anyone who can achieve these slides should get a promotion. So keep that in mind when you're talking to your boss. But the thing here is that we set out very early on, and one of the stories I can remember, vaguely is I didn't believe. Like I was a hard believer of like, this can't be done this fast. Like personalization is such a big animal. You have to be able to react. And when I first met Brainify and was exposed to what could be done, I challenged them. I said, I'm empowered to make a decision. I want you to do something fast to prove it to me. And I was out on a boat with them. I think, Matt, you were with us, and we're touring a lake, and within 30 minutes, I had something in front of me that we could launch the next day. And so one of these things that we have to realize is that personalization is you have to go really fast or have a really big team that can go really fast, right? And many of us don't have massive budgets and things like that, so we really have to hone in on what we can do with the small amount of budget we do have, and speed is going to be that.
One of the things I think it's important to the audience to talk about here is we've talked about some of the results. Can you talk a little bit, Hansen, about how you've implemented this personalization to help with your funnel with consumers? How to get from selection to conversion, how you're using it kind of omni-channel? Because Brainify gives you the ability, as many partners do, to connect your touch points behind that SKU selection and that item personalization choice. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have, so we're connected throughout email to web throughout the process. So we started small. We started with recommendations and other email opportunities there. And then we, brought in the connectivity to web. And so that throughout that process, we're able to communicate to, one-on-one with our email members as opposed to one large message throughout, right? And so it's allowed us to scale fast, be able to use our transactional data, all these other attributes, so we can really hone in on, if you bought hair color 6 months ago, then you're probably primed for something again, and let's send you the right message as opposed to, we're showing you shampoo for aging, covering up gray, right? So we now break all that apart, and now we can scale fast, one-to-one, understand exactly what you're purchasing at a much faster pace.
You said something that's really interesting that I want to reiterate. We talked about you purchased this 6 months ago and you may need it again. The difference here isn't just purchase cycle. AI can do one of two things for you. It can do predictive, like you bought A, you may want to buy B. But what it can do with a temporal AI engine is, say for instance you have a puppy. It knows that the puppy is getting older. It doesn't need 0 to 20 pound puppy food. In 6 months, it's going to need adult puppy food and adult puppy toys, which because it's no longer a puppy, it's a big dog that acts like a puppy. And so a temporal AI is an engine and an AI model that takes in the time nuances associated with purchase in order to do that prediction so it moves forward with you and with your customers. That's very different than a generative model where it's doing what's the next most likely choice, which is different because of the time-based need that your consumers have. It helps you stay in touch with the consumers both on when they need the product, what the product is, and what the right fit for that product may be. So I think that that's pretty interesting. Chris, can you talk a little bit about how you've managed this organizationally? This is a big adoption change within your tech stack that takes both marketing and it takes your IT team in order to get this in. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you managed it?
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts of this particular solution is that we didn't really have a heavy lift with those teams. When we were evaluating which tools to use, we sort of had a bit of a bake-off between different vendors. Brainify was able to quickly onboard, especially for our first use case, and then have all the results and learnings and surfacing things we could do to test in their initial pilot. And then they had to patiently wait while we tested another vendor who had a different approach, but also took a longer time to onboard, took a longer time to get into the pilot, and took a long time to surface their results.
I can speak to this from personal experience. When I took over as the Chief Marketing Officer at BevMo, our number one recommended item on the platform, which was still leveraging Magento and some other technologies. Now, mind you, we're a liquor store that sells 15,000 bottles of associated liquor. Our number one recommended item was ice and limes, which is decidedly unfortunate if you're selling wine. I literally called Brainify and I said, if you can get this off my site today, I'll hire you. And within about 4 hours, they had it off my site, re-recommended, and complete implementation. Now, I can't promise that that's going to be a solution for all of you, but that was my experience and my solution, and I hired them that day. I was literally getting calls from my board that said, fix this, or we'll find someone who can. They fixed it. It was an amazing solve for me, and it's one of the reasons that I believe in both how a light implementation product that lays on top of your current stack, leveraging your consumer data to get smarter and know your customers in a way that is authentic to you can make such a big difference. Now, Hansen, I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the dynamics you've seen from a consumer standpoint. We've gone in, inflation has kicked in, it's expensive to buy things, interest rates are high, consumer buying and pockets have tightened a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about some of the nuances you've seen from that standpoint and how personalization's helped?
Yeah, I think, you're 100% right. The macro, efforts, that we feel, it's really truly about, putting the right piece in front of them, right? Nobody wants to spend, not everyone has, income that can then just, do whatever they want with, right? So everyone's tight in their belts. And so for us, it's being able to understand what their transaction history looks like, what their intent looks like, and then deliver those products that we know that they're wanting and looking for on a real-time basis, right? And so it's been really a game changer because we're putting these recommendations in the places that they are making decisions, right? We're not just putting them in random places throughout. Brainify has really helped us understand the flow, the journey of the customer, and understanding this is the right micro or macro engagement place to put that, and then we make that transaction even more relevant than it was going to be. So, understanding our customer is a big piece. The technology behind it is, as Chris mentioned earlier, we've slowed so much because people want to make those recommendations and they want to say, well, I want you to write 5 rules against these 10 things, and this is what we think is going to happen, and put it against something else that's learning and growing and maturing every day. We're going to continue to invest in the model that is proving itself out.
And if I could just add to that, one of the things I've really appreciated about working with Brainify is that not only are they bringing the technology and the data science perspective, but they really have people on the team that view it through that business lens or through that e-commerce lens specifically, so that they can really surface relevant tests and improvements that you can do.
Yeah, they're much more than a partner, right? I mean, like we all have vendors that just come in, they tell you something, and they move on. Like they're a truly big part of the team that helps us make decisions on a regular basis, and I think that's a huge part that many of us look for, and not many of us get.
So to both Chris's on this one, I opened this question up because you've both mentioned this in conversations as we prepared for today's discussion about how you put your team's choices and recommendations up against the AI engine almost as a battle royale. Like what do we know and how's this going to go versus what the AI did? I would love both of your perspectives on this. Chris, I'll start with you. Can you give me a little perspective on how that played out?
Yeah, I mean the merchandise teams really put Brainify through its paces, and in the earliest days were just sure that they had a little kick to the rule set that they could throw at it that would win out. And fortunately or unfortunately, the Brainify AI was basically not invested in the bias of the rule set. Truly invested in the customer signal.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the other piece that I would add on to that would be is as we tested these along the way and we proved out that this does work, right? We've been able to take those other resources that we were spending time making those rules and trying to do that to repurpose them in other ways, right? And that's really been a game changer for us because we no longer have to wait for and take the time to do all that. We're all the Brainify system's learning along the way, and now we have higher performance on other things as we move forward.
Well, and I think too, as the comfort level of the team grew on the impact that Brainify was having, there was increased comfort in moving away from a human versus AI test to AI versus AI tests, where we could really start to see rapid improvement.
You said something really interesting on this, on your team doing it and then AI doing it. Do you view this as a reallocation of your team's work, or is it a change in how you're using your team and where you're using them? How's this playing out within your organizations?
I think for us, continuing to maintain the recommender for the merchant team becomes a chore that continually has to be maintained, but where maybe we're not adding the most value. It's let us redeploy them to areas where they can have a bigger impact.
Yeah, we're not looking to replace, everyone's scared that AI is going to replace our jobs, right? And I think it's going to help us just be more efficient and be able to redeploy people in the right places.
I think that's really, really well said. It's a tool that amplifies your team's work, and it allows you then to put your team doing the work that makes a difference organizationally. Now, Chris, you said something interesting on top of this about the bias that happens when your teams are putting work together. They want to see their initiatives succeed. They want to see this happen. How has AI changed the data process within and the decision cycles?
Yeah, I think that the teams building out recommenders, a lot of times they are building recommendation sets that they know they can defend internally. When we shift to AI, we're defending it with the results. I mean, the results are dramatic enough that there's not much question, even if intuitively you might say, well, why are these things paired together? When you see the results, you can move past that question.
Yeah, I mean, a huge point there, right? I think, data drives the right decisions, right? And as opposed, every one of us has an opinion around things, but if we can bring data to the forefront of that, then we can make decisions a lot faster.
I think that's a wonderful point on how the teams are leveraging this, what it's kind of bringing to the forefront, which is the best thinking and work that you want your teams to be able to evaluate, and allowing data then to drive that. I think that that's really, really insightful. Can you talk a little bit, because I think everybody in the room wants to, we've talked about how fast it is, but help me understand how long it took for the AI to understand your data and to bring that in. How long did onboarding take? You talked a little bit, Chris, about Brainify did its test and you're still waiting the other org, but what really matters here is because you have to train it, it has to know your SKUs. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think it was really two pieces. The first piece was they were able to set up a script that would listen to the traffic even before we really launched. And then they were able to leverage existing feeds without us making a ton of changes to fit into a certain hierarchy, which time to market shrunk considerably because of their flexibility.
I think this is a powerful point. The AI learns from the interactions that it has and it gets smarter. It takes your information easily from the stack that you currently have, can ingest and start to both train and execute quickly. This doesn't take years or months, and it doesn't take a CS team or a computer science team from your organization in order to train it. These are powerful things that you want both in your partner and within your model, because it allows you to take your AI engine and tailor it, build with it, and implement it all in one cycle, which really is important because it continues to grow with you instead of you waiting for it and continuing to having to do what you were doing yesterday, today. What I'd like to do next is we're going to talk a little bit of key takeaways from you guys, because there's a lot of really nice insights that you've brought to bear today. The audience is going to be able to see this. Chris, why don't I start with you? What is your, not just takeaway, but what is the insight that you'd like to give to the audience about your AI experience and kind of what you've seen as really an innovative retailer bringing forward this technology and making a difference?
I think for us, the big things that I would take away is that you need more than just the technology. You need a partner who can surface the key insights and who, as I mentioned earlier, in addition to having the great tech and the great data science, really can view the specific needs of your business through that business lens.
That's great. Hansen?
Yeah, I think, as my quote here talks about, paralysis in the sorts, there's a lot you can go do, right? And I think the one thing I would tell you is, if you are a leader or the decision maker, is to make sure you have someone that is empowering you to move, to run, to go. There's a lot of things you can do, but the challenge is that so many things can stop you in your tracks. So get empowered, work with your leadership to test and fail, because otherwise, you're going to be standing in the same place you were, 6 months ago.
I think those are wonderful takeaways. As I summarize what we've done and what we've talked about here today, AI is a powerful tool that can help to augment and build what your teams are doing. The right partner matters in that. Right partner that can build with you, works with you, and doesn't just focus on the product, but focuses on your business and can speak to your teams, matters. AI is unbelievably powerful. Now, we didn't talk about how to train the models and what those pieces are, but we talked about today is the implementation and how quick it can go. We talked about the impact to their teams, where we can reallocate those resources, not replace, reallocate those resources to build the business and do the work that really matters. Now, the work that AI is doing matters. It was time consuming, it was hard to do, it's contentious because everyone has a perspective. The most important part of this is AI, from what I heard, AI allows data to make the decisions and for the evaluations, as opposed to biases and or internal discussions. that are being positioned by different merchants or groups or by vendor, conversations that you're getting because someone got more, trade funds or something else, they've got to move it. Data makes right decisions for your customers. The partner matters. The results speak for themselves, which is very powerful and allows you to focus on the other pieces. Myself, both the Chris's will be at booth 219 at Brandify. If you'd like to ask questions, I'm certain there are 1,000 of them out there. We're not going to do questions on stage for this today. We are happy to address any questions you may have. Our biggest takeaway here is AI can amplify every touch point in your business. It can impact how you're operating if you allow it to do it. Be bold, be brave, know that the right partner matters. And with that, I'd say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.